Hi, I'm John Gibson, the pastor of the priest at Grace Episcopal Church in Clayton, and I am with one of our founders, Jill. I was going to say Marla. You and I were just talking about Marla before we recorded. She's I think, the other founder that we have still at the church. But no, I'm with Jill Allen, one of our founders. Jill, you and I talked, I know, maybe a month or so ago about that first meeting. I love that conversation. And so today we're going to kind of pick up from there and talk about the early years, so to speak. So y'all had that first meeting at Clayton High School, and then what happened? Tell us a little bit about what happened after that.
Well, we were at Clayton High School for a while. I don't remember how long we were there, maybe 6 months to a year, but may have been longer. Honestly, I can't remember. It was 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
I understand. Mm-hmm.
But so we would have church in the cafeteria, and sometimes the cafeteria had a courtyard outside of it. So sometimes we had church outside. If it was a nice day, we could open the doors and sit outside. The kids could run around and play. Cafeteria was not ideal. The refrigerators would come on and make a loud humming sound, and there was gum on the bottom of the tables, and it was just, a high school cafeteria. So it was not ideal, but it's what we had. And we had
every week you guys were setting up and taking down everything.
Every week. And so one good thing about the cafeteria was there are already chairs and tables. So it was just a matter of moving things around. It wasn't too much set up and take down, just kind of moving things. We had to have Sunday school for the kids out in the hallway because none of the other classrooms were unlocked. So, it was not ideal, but I think we were pretty resilient. We just made do with what we had.
Okay. Any funny stories that you remember from that first year? Anything kind of stick out in your memory?
I do remember one. The minister that we had during that time was Phil Wea, and he was kind of funny. He liked to do props. He used props in his sermons or in the children's sermon, different things. And when we talked about, it was around Easter time, and we were talking about Lazarus being raised from the dead. And so we had a man who was a member at St. Paul's, Alan Wellens, and he would come. He was very supportive of our church, and he would come to church almost every Sunday when we were at the high school. And he agreed to play Lazarus, and so we had him all wrapped up in toilet paper like a mummy. And it was pretty funny. That was one of the times that we were outside. And so he was laying on the picnic table. And during the reading of that story, of course, then he just stood up from the picnic table, and he is wearing this nice suit with toilet paper wrapped all around him. It was kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, that is great. Oh my goodness, that is great.
So that was one funny story.
Yeah, Phil, we liked props, you said, and I know Phil. He's no longer in this diocese. He moved to Western North Carolina. He was the chaplain at North Carolina State at the time, so that's how come he was free on Sunday morning, because they're college students, they don't want to get up for Sunday morning. So
that's true.
In the evening, I believe. So yeah,
Phil had good stories. He had good little children's sermons. Have a bag. He always had a bag of something. He'd have a dead, one of those rubber chickens or different things like that he would incorporate into his either the sermon or the children's sermon. So he was a lot of fun. Very funny guy.
How long was Phil with Grace?
I cannot remember how long he was with us. I know that when we left the high school and went to the next location, he did not go with us.
So he
I
was
want to say maybe 6 months or so.
6 months, okay. And was it at that time that Barbara Platt Hendren, who was the first priest, after I guess the first, not quite sure, full-time, permanent priest. I'm not quite sure what word to use there, but did she come after that, or?
No, we had some others in between. I know for a while after Phil left, we had a short period of time where we did not have a priest. We just continued to meet though. We met in a few different members' homes. We met at Legend Park once or twice, and it was more of a morning prayer situation. And then the diocese assigned us. I know that we had 2 different women who are our priests for short periods of time. Honestly, I can't remember their names. They weren't with us very long. We were at the senior center on Derry Road when Barbara came. And then she was with us for several years. The senior center was a pretty nice facility. It was a smaller space, but it was just nicer. They had a dedicated room for that kind of thing. And then the exercise room where they had all the treadmill and that kind of thing, that was where the kids met for their Sunday school.
Oh, really?
So of course, that was really hard to keep them. All they wanted to do was get on the treadmill and the bike.
Right. A more active Sunday school than normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that was Marion and Heather Dykus. At that point, they were coming to church, and Mary, and so they were really they were probably middle school, high school age, and so they were always in there with the kids. They helped a lot. Emily Smith started coming then. I think she was probably in high school or middle school, somewhere in that range. So, one thing too that we did not have was we always struggled with music. And there was a man from the diocese who would come with his guitar. His name was Bill Wren. And so he would come with his guitar, and he'd have handouts of the music. So we learned new songs, and so that was kind of fun.
Now, that's interesting that you say that to me, because, of course, the 9:30 service is a traditional service. And even before we got this wonderful organ that we have today, we used the hymnal music. But it sounds like at the very beginning, you all were doing some different kinds of music, not just the hymnal music.
We were. We did the hymns that we sang were pretty much the most familiar ones that most people know, no matter what your denomination. But the songs that Bill Wren would bring for us to sing were pretty catchy, a catchy tune. They weren't contemporary like we have at the 11:11 service now. They weren't like rock songs, but they were, I know one of them was called I Am the Church, You Are the Church, We Are the Church. That song, that kind of a song. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but
yeah,
just a little catchy tune. And then we had, at some point, Catherine had her violin, and we had Mary Teachout's granddaughter, Brittany. She had a musical instrument, and we had some music with them. But at that point, I think we were at the bank. I don't think we were still at the school. I'm sorry, everything runs together.
No, that's great. These are wonderful stories. So I just want to try and get a little bit of the timeline down though a bit. So at the high school for a year, and then from the high school, did you go straight over to the senior center, or was there another stop?
I want to say there was, let's see, the senior center was our next major. That was where we were. Yes. Okay. I think that's right.
Okay.
Marla would have to corroborate that, but I want to say that we did that. And then after the senior center, we went to West Clayton Elementary School. And then before that time, before we were at West Clayton, I think between the senior center and West Clayton, we had a few places like the yoga studio that was downtown by the railroad tracks. There's another old house down by the railroad tracks that has it's now a coffee shop, I believe, and a hair salon. It's a big white house. I can't remember the address, but we were there for a while. I know.
I've looked at that place, and that's on the street. It's right facing the railroad tracks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you guys ever have a train come through right in the middle of your service?
Yeah. I did. I remember we had vacation Bible school there one year, and we'd be playing outside in the yard, and the train would come by, and of course, every kid has to stop and watch the train. That's exciting when the train comes by.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Oh no, kids love that. Yeah, that's really good.
yeah.
So, um, cool. Absolutely, that's cool. So,
So the other thing too, that since we didn't, we were relying on these spaces on Sunday, so during the week we couldn't really meet anywhere else. I mean, we couldn't meet there because of the school or the senior center, and so when we did have vacation Bible school, we shared with another church. So we went to Bible school with Horn for several years. And so our kids would join with their kids, and then the adults would would help with that too. So that was kind of nice. It was fun to get to spend time with meet other children and parents from other churches. And
yeah, that's really great to do. And of course, recently we've been doing some things with St. Christopher's. A lot of times churches just get, they're all caught up in their own world. But I think that's wonderful. Even at the very beginning, Grace was partnering with some other churches.
Yeah. And another thing that we did that we've always done too, we always have done so much outreach in the community. For how small we are, we really do a lot. And even back then, St. Paul's had a tutoring program with the Latino children in Smithfield at St. Paul's. And I was a part of that. We had middle school kids after school that would come. I think it was twice a week, and they'd come after school. And so that was the middle school was not. I can't remember how they got there. I don't think it was a bus. I think it was a van that somebody did. And so they'd come and they'd have a good, healthy snack, and then we'd do some tutoring and playing games with some of these kids. We did Meals on Wheels.
Really?
And we always had Blessing of the Animals every year. That was always really popular.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to do that again this year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. That was always a lot of fun.
I also like the fact that y'all did the tutoring, because of course we had to stop the tutoring several years ago, but for 2 years we were doing tutoring, and we were working with children, elementary school kids, for folks who came after that and aren't aware of that, but elementary school children in the Alta neighborhood, which is right across from East Clayton Elementary. And turned out they were all Latino children. We leafleted the whole neighborhood, but that was just a great ministry. I loved that ministry. We did it for 2 years. The only reason we stopped is we just, after a while, ran out of volunteers to do it. Our volunteers got busy, or, other things, happened. But the tutoring ministry, I think, is just such a wonderful ministry.
This was really good, and it was in part with the Episcopal farm workers in Newton Grove. And so there was a lady who had come from Newton Grove who was the facilitator. And so these children were all Latino children, and most of them spoke English, but I know there was a little boy that I helped with algebra. It's hard to explain those terms There were a few kids that, of course, Spanish is their first language, and it's kind of hard to explain some of those terms.
Yes, absolutely.
As you know, being a Spanish major, as you know how that is.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I can speak Spanish, as you know, but I wouldn't know the terms for, like, I don't know what variable is in Spanish.
Yeah, right. I know. It's probably variable or
something like that. I don't know.
Something very similar, but
right.
I think the kids enjoyed it. We enjoyed it. It didn't last for very long. I think probably they had the same issues with, getting volunteers and that type of thing. But for a while we did it. It was a lot of fun. I really liked it.
That is really wonderful. Well, we're going to wrap up here, but anything else from these early years? So we talked a little bit about Clayton High School, talked a little bit about...
Sorry, I'm outside and my neighbor just fired up his four-wheeler. So.
Oh, okay. No worries.
I can't hear you very well.
Okay, so we talked about, we're going to wrap up now. So we talked about Clayton High School. We talked about the senior center. Phil Wea was your priest at first. Bill Wren came and played guitars. Anything else from those early days that you remember?
I don't know. I'm gonna step inside so I can actually hear me now.
Okay,
Sorry about this.
no worries.
Um,
That's what happens.
I know. Welcome to Zoom.
That's right. Welcome to Zoom.
Um, I can't right now off the top of my head. I can't think of any other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of changes over the years, back and
Mm-hmm.
forth. Barbara was probably our first minister she wasn't a full-time minister or anything like that, but she was, maybe she was half-time. I'm not sure, half-time or 3/4 time. She was probably the first one that we had that was actually a kind of semi-permanent. There were some years that we didn't really have that, and we just tried to keep going on without that permanence, or that I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I don't know.
Well, one thing it sounds to me like, so a word that you used, which I think is so important, is resilience. So you
Right.
used resilience. Another word that comes to my mind is creativity. You all were quite creative and resourceful. So, I mean, you were able to, you were in the high school first, then in the senior center. You took advantage of different resources available from the diocese. And as you said, a major theme for this church is outreach. And that's just been an ongoing and is still a very important part of Grace Episcopal Church Clayton.
I think one thing too, we've never had we don't have very many teenagers at our church at any time, but the few things that we've done with the teenagers, we've tried to do with other churches. I know one year we went on a ski trip with the youth from Good Shepherd Church. And that was, my kids, when I was actually a chaperone for that, and that was a lot of fun, and it was good to spend time with youth from another church. And we also our kids went to the retreat at Brown Summit. Can't remember the name of that center.
Was that the Bishop's Ball? Did they go to the Bishop's Ball? Brown Summit, when this was, for some folks who probably don't know, this was the Camp and Conference Center for the diocese. And it was sold off, I'm guessing almost 20 years ago now. I can't quite remember exactly when. But yeah, so we used to have all kinds of youth events there, weekend retreats, and we still do have some things in the diocese. I think we use another camp. It's also north of Greensboro. Brown Summit's north of Greensboro, again, for folks who don't know.
Brown Summit's the one that we use. And I don't think we did Bishop's Ball. I know that was, we never had enough interest in that, but we did do a retreat or two. And some of our teenagers, Marion Dykus was a teenager, or she was in college then. And Brittany, Mary Teachout's granddaughter, I know she was a counselor. And so these two girls that were in high school, college age, they would go with our youth and be part of this group and be with other youth from other churches. And so, I think, we tried to tap into those resources the best that we could.
And I think that's such an important point, because again, a lot of times churches think they need to do it on their own, but it is so important to take advantage of resources that are available. We are part of a diocese, take advantage of those diocesan resources. Also important to partner with other congregations, like we've been doing recently with St. Christopher's. So you're telling me that this is actually something that Grace has done throughout its life.
Yeah. And another thing that we did too was we've had interns
Mm-hmm.
from the diocese that came, and that helped out with, it just helped out the minister and the
Mm-hmm.
priest. So we had Jennifer Durant. I think you may be.
I knew Jennifer Durant. Unfortunately, she passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, but she was just a wonderful woman, a woman of deep faith. She did become a priest, and she was up in Virginia serving a church when she passed away, and that was sad. But she was just a wonderful woman.
It was awesome. And then we had Jill. Jill from the food shuttle. I can't think of her last name.
Jill Staten Bullard. And
yes, Bullard. Yeah.
Bullard,
she helped us get involved with Backpack Buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was with us for several months, and just different. That kind of thing just adds another element to our congregation when you have someone from another place who has different ideas. And I don't know, it's just really cool.
Yeah, definitely. And somebody else who some of the folks who've been here for a long time would remember is BJ Owens. BJ was one of the interns. I also know BJ. And BJ, after he was ordained, he served at St. Paul's in Cary. He was an assistant there. Then he went to St. Andrews in Greensboro. And now he is he's the rector of the cathedral in Cleveland. So yeah, so Grace has had
really great
role in the formation of people for ministry. That's really great. Yeah, that is really wonderful. Well, Jill, this has been a delightful conversation again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your memories. We're going to talk more. And again, throughout this year, for folks who maybe missed the first video, it is on our YouTube channel. We're going to be having more of these conversations. I'm looking forward, Jill, to talking to you some more, but I'm also planning to talk to some other folks who were and are part of Grace. So, you guys have been listening, watching this. So Marla, for example, Marla, I'm coming for you. I'm letting you know. I'm going to be coming to talk to you. But Marion Dykus, for example. So that, this is really wonderful that we've got folks who were at Grace in the early days. Maybe they weren't there at that first service, but in the early days, and are still part of this community. And that, I think, is a real testament to this church. Yeah. Jill, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.